Welcome back, everybody, to me talking about the Wheel of Time, and we are continuing today with Knife of Dreams, chapters 5 to 13 is what I think we're doing today. Yes, that's what we're doing today. And yeah, it's still not that bad. We'll see where things end with this book. So that's what we're doing today. And I just put on that weird community tab thing. There's a poll if I should start a Discord server for this community or not. I'd very much appreciate your opinions on that. If you feel like you need another Discord server or not, we can do all kinds of stuff there. Don't get me wrong. It's you know, music, books, ranting, that kind of stuff. Let me know. If you already have too many of them, we don't need to start one here either. It's just like that. I'm bad at making decisions, so I figured I'll just put it out to you all. So let me know what you think there. I'd really appreciate it. Apart from that, let's get this started, shall we? Cheers. All right. So, what do we get? Well, we mostly get Matt in this one. We get a bit of Fail, we get a bit of Perrin, we get a bit of Elaine, but mostly we get Matt. So, let's focus on the Matt thing before we get to all the other bits and pieces. How about that, right? Alright, Matt's part is very much Matt trying to get into, to get it in, getting it on with Tuan. And that's like the main problem there. So the main plot line is that they're still traveling with a circus, everyone is behaving like idiots, Matt is trying to keep things together, and, well, then we'll see what happens after that. It's all a bit weird right now. But we'll see where it is going in the near future. But mostly they're, traveling, then weird things happen, and it ends with Matt having to, realizing that he'll have to flee with Tuan because, as we already know, Lady Siroth is hunting for her. We'll see how that will turn out. So that's the plot line. It takes up a large part of these, a couple of hundred pages, I guess, at this point. At least 100 pages, more like 150 pages, I guess. And you can certainly argue that that's far too long. And it is. There's a few good bits in here that I think are important to understand. And then we'll see where that is going, and then we'll also talk about the bad bits. So, the good bits. Sensitivity by Bobby J. Unexpected, but true. And there's two bits that I really, appreciated him putting in there, and that's both there's an interaction with the circus and the Shan-Chan soldiers, and a couple of soldiers walking over and trying to just push in and not paying whatnot, and then we get to a standoff and all of that, and then the strongman Petra says to Matt, the problem is we are seen as strangers everywhere, so people try to take advantage of us and treat us like shit. And then you have the Tinkers, the traveling folk, the Tuathon, yeah, those guys, all flocking to Shan-Chan country because they also treated like shit everywhere because they're strangers and people feel that they can get away with all kinds of nastiness to people that are not part of their community. And, that's a fairly, well-reflected observation on the part of Robert Jordan there. Because, yes, we as humans, not especially in the West, but we as humans tend to treat people that are not of our tribe, of our, local community or whatever, we treat them like shit. And we tend to, take advantage of people of whom we believe we can get away with it. And that Robert Jordan is aware of it and just actually mentions it here, both with, the traveling, the circus and the Tuathon. I do appreciate that. That's really cool. That's almost a clever commentary on society, and I was not expecting that from Robert Jordan, so I figured I'll just mention it here. That's really cool. And now we come to the but. It's a small but as yet. We'll see where it develops to in the future, because the reason like the thing that I'm looking for here is that the Tuathon flock towards the Shanchan held territories because the Shanchan, bring the kind of order that gives the Tuathon the chance to actually live in peace and not be harassed by people anymore. And I'm not sure, given the way Robert Jordan portrays the Shanchan, I'm not sure if I think that will lead to a good conclusion. If that's like, yeah, be like the Shanchan, at least it'll give you like law and order. And it's a general thing that we've seen here, is like the Shanchan bringing like very strict law and order, and apparently Robert Jordan is very much in favor of that kind of thing. So I'm not sure where that is going in the future. So I'm keeping a bit of a reserve here, but in general the idea of him actually mentioning that we always treat strangers like shit is, it's there. It's clever. It's, well, not clever. It's it's fairly realistic is what it is. And, realism is not something I've expected from these books. So well done, Bobby G. You've done it. Now let's look at the other bits. All right, so obviously whether you enjoy the whole Matt trying to get it on with Tuon's story really depends on, I guess, your personal views on relationships and whatnot. There's that weird kink thing going on with her calling him toy and him trying to call her precious and trying to play with each other. It's like, yeah. It's just not something that I really personally am interested in at all. And he spends a lot of time with that, right? He's buying her a horse. He's getting himself a new bow and stuff. So he's buying her a horse. He's doing all these things to please her and whatnot. And yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of it feels unrealistic, but then again, I'm obviously not the best expert when it comes to courtships. I've usually fallen into relationships without actually thinking about it, because it's how I do things in general. I don't think about things that much. So maybe I'm not the right judge, but it feels weird and it feels awkward the way it is written in a lot of ways. Oh, we also get our, this is interesting, we obviously get our first mention of Oliver's way too wide mouth and way too large ears, which, we obviously have to get at least once, if not more than once in every book. This is where we get it for the first time. Pretty cool. We learn more about Noel Jaron, who may or may not be Jane Fastrider, or at least related to Jane Fastrider, which I guess is important in the future. We don't know. But yeah. The rest of it is explicit spanking, because of course those Aes Sedai still need to be put in their places a lot. And I think at this point it just really annoys me. I've said that before, right? I really don't think that the portrayal of Aes Sedai makes any sense, because they're like, yeah, we're still Aes Sedai. We know better. We know how things have to be. And they still don't have any actual motive whatsoever. It's like, what do the Aes Sedai actually want as a whole? Do they have any goals? We don't know. Apart from being in charge and then doing nothing with it, I don't get it. But so we have that situation. They're fucking around in that that wagon of theirs. So we get Matt spanking Jolene, because she's obviously an ungrateful bitch. Well, she is pretty fucking ungrateful the way Robert Jordan is writing her. So yeah, but still, it feels very much like wish fulfillment in a way, where it's she to build up this character behaving arrogantly, and then have a scene where we gratuitously get to see how Matt is spanking her ass, and I'm like, whatever. I mean, I feel it's cheap to make spanking jokes and spanking comments at this point, but it becomes such a huge part of these books that it is just really, really hard to ignore and to not comment on it anymore, because it is there all the fucking time, and it is absolutely annoying. Same thing, like the whole idea of Tuan and Selusha, is that her name? Her like maid, whatever, um, trying to see things, Tuan testing what Matt is and whatnot. Yeah, I just feel that people, it is unrealistic how they kind of sometimes behave strange and don't understand things, and how they sometimes understand them. And yeah, but well, I'll take that part. The part I want to point to as well is something that has come up recently. Kind of was hinted at really early on when Tuan shows up for the first time, which I guess is in Winter's Heart, I think. See, I'm already confusing all those books. I think it's in Winter's Heart. What happens there is, what I'm looking for is the fact that Seanchan are very, very superstitious, believing in all kinds of omens and stuff. And yeah, that kind of adds to that Orientalism, doesn't it? Right, where we have like the Oriental is superstitious, has a lot of intrigue. Another thing that we get like more information on, because all these assassinations going down, and Tuan having people assassinate, and people trying to assassinate Tuan because the Imperial Court is full of intrigue. Yeah. So we have that aspect. So we have the superstition, we have the intrigue, we have slavery, we have effeminacy in some regards, at least in like outward appearance, and the fact that women are very, very strong in that society. And yeah, they need tyranny to function. And that's all of it, basically. And I was like, yeah. And yeah, the fact that we are now actually focusing on the what's it called, on the Orientalism, focusing so much on the superstition and the intrigue, it just smacks of that, like, I'll just take the cheapest way of giving you an image that I can. I don't know. It just, I've mentioned it before, and it becomes repetitive, but like he doesn't leave any of those boxes unticked. And that's the annoying bit there, is like, which makes that world building so shitty, right? Is that he just like grabs something, gives it a different name, and maybe changes the colors of something, and then we're like, yeah, well, all right. No, stop that shit. Look, the Said book is from 79. We should maybe, or 78 even, like, we should maybe understand that that kind of portrayal is borderline racist, so don't do it. And Robert Jordan is still doing it in 2005, is this book, right? He's doing this in 2005. We have understood at that point. And, don't do that, is what I'm trying to say here. So we get that bit, and when there's more of these annoying bits and pieces of like racism and bullshit going down here, and we'll see where that will lead when we go to the Aiel kind of problem, right? What else? Well, a small bit here. The marriage of Egin, whatever, Lylwyn Shipless, as her name is now, to Bael Domon is fine. I mean, yeah, sure, why not? What I find kind of despicable is the way Matt is always thinking of, is like, oh god, this will be a terrible marriage because there's an actual strong woman that has own ideas and stuff. And I know it's supposed to be Matt's point of view on the whole thing. I get that. But every single character in these books, when thinking about other people and other people's relationships, is always this dismissive and arrogant and shitty. And that becomes a pattern. It's like, if that's how you, Bobby J, think that people think about other marriages and other people, it feels like this is your way of thinking of people, and no longer Matt's or Rand's or Elaine's or Egwene's or Nynaeve's, or you get the drift, right? It's like everyone. And that's just, unnecessary and bad in a lot of ways. And I don't like it. What is, however, pretty cool is that scene with the, like, Village of the Dead. That part is really fucking cool, right? When they come to that village and stop, and then the peddler comes. I mean, it's kind of shitty that the peddler has to die, but, that there's basically, the whole village does not exist because it's one of those old historical villages that pops up when, like, the reality thins and you have all the dead coming back, and the peddler is then sucked into the past, basically, because he stops in that city, in that town, while it is still there. And that part was a really cool idea. I like that. As when it comes to horror and stuff, that was pretty decent. Another thing that I really enjoyed, not really enjoy, but kind of liked, and I'm not sure if that's the same one, but I feel there's that scene when Matt and Tuan ride out, and they come out to that place with that broken statue, and I'm like, is that the same statue that we've already seen before with both, what's his name? When Rand hung out there with Davram Bashir, that's the way around. Yeah, Davram Bashir, and before that, when Elaine and Nynaeve were on their way to the farm with the kin, and that everyone kind of walks past that same broken statue of that warrior queen. I'm not quite sure if it's the same one this time around, but it feels like it might be the same one, and that would be really, really fucking cool. And I to have that thing show up again and again, I do appreciate that. That's, nice world building there, Bobby J. I appreciate it. Oh yeah, and of course we what's his name? Matt finally realizes what Aludra needs a bell founder for, which is obviously to build cannons. And that's sort of what they're planning now. So they're going to leave at the end of this plot line, where we're at right now, because, Tom has found out about that part. So, yeah. We're gonna go and, meet Rand. Rand's gonna give Aludra money to build cannons, and then we're gonna kill all them Seanchan and all them Trollocs and Murderall and everything, really, with, like, modern weaponry, because that's what this world really needs. One final thing, an inconsistency, and I kind of forgot to talk about that. So after that whole scene, there's, like, the shock thing, and then Tom reads Moraine's letter again, and realizes that, and finally Matt reads it from Tom, and it's like, yeah, Moraine telling me, you know what, I'm not dead. I ain't dead, as a certain granny of our acquaintance would say, and you need to come to rescue me, together with Matt and one other person, and, well, all of that prophecy shit, which I assume she learned when she went to Rhuidean and in Shadow Rising and walked through those, like, Terangreal and saw, like, 3 different things from her future. I assume that's where she learned all of that. And here's the problem. So that's like, we need to find her. She's in the realm of the Aelfwin and Eilfwin, whatever, however you pronounce them, the snakes and foxes, which is still the coolest part of this this whole world building thing. And we need to find her, and they're like, yeah, let's go and find her. And here's the thing, right? Which I think is just, like, lazy inconsistency, because so she's in that realm, and there's, like, the Terangreal was broken, and then it's like, yeah, she's there's the Tower of whatever, and Oliver knows that there's the Tower of whatever. Because Brigida told him. And we know that tower exists because Perrin walks there, comes there when he follows Luke, right? When he follows Luke in the Dreamland, Dream World in, that's also Shadow Rising. Right. And Brigida shows up and tells him that's the doorway to that realm of the Aelfwin and Eilfwin, and so forth. So we know about that tower already. And Oliver knows that because Brigida told him that story, which, pretty cool. Whatever. And everyone's like, we don't know where that thing is. And then, and Tom's like, you need to tell me, Matt, because you're the only one who knows. And then Matt's like, yeah, right, I remember. I was on that boat with Bail Doman. We sailed past it. And yes, that happens in Eye of the Worlds. One of the first moments when you realize that this is actually far future, post-apocalyptic, whatever, and not, fantasy. So kind of like Shannara, really. So that's sort of the thing. But Tom's on that fucking boat with Matt and Rand, and we have we have this huge metal tower that has nothing around it. It just looks like a needle of steel, basically. And Tom's on that boat, and they sail past it on a fucking riverboat. And Tom does not remember at this point. He needs Matt's help. Now, if we're like, Tom being, already kind of having memory loss because he became an alcoholic for a while, or whatever else happens there, right? Never mind. But we don't have that. So why make that whole fuckery about it with Matt being the only one who remembers? Did Bobby J forget what he wrote in his first book? It's just like unnecessary inconsistency there. Really unnecessary. If it were more about like Moraine telling you, Matt has to go because Matt has already been there, knows about the realm of the Ilfin and the Elfins, all good reasons for Matt to be part of that rescue mission, which they obviously settle on doing. I just hope it will happen soon and not like in I don't know, 3 books or whatever. Yeah. It just annoys me because that's what you need an editor for, and apparently Bobby J's wife didn't feel like reminding him that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? And that just, annoys me. It's like, that's shit. It's just like, it's avoidable. It's avoidable inconsistency. It's like, why not just do that? It would be so fucking easy, but you don't. So yeah, just a small bit and a bit of annoying, but, we'll see. At least I was right when I called it back in the day when Moraine and Lanfear dropped through that portal. I called it. It's like, you know what? They'll be back. Moraine is back, and I'm pretty sure Sundane is Lanfear reconstituted. So I guess she died? Who knows? But yeah, they're back, and we'll see the Moraine rescue mission at some point. Gotta bring our girls home, and, we'll see. But it sounds like adventure, and I really appreciate adventure over Matt trying to get laid. Because it's cringy. All of it is so fucking cringy. Alright, let's look at the other bits. The Fael chapter. Now this one is going to get interesting. So Fael is in that camp with Savannah, and the main thing is that those two friends, some of the people that are now swearing to fealty to Fael to flee the camp, some of them actually stole that oath rod for Galena. And yeah, wonderful. That's the plot line. And also something weird happens and everyone feels sort of less solid for a moment, which I assume is another one of those, the seals are slowly about to break and whatnot situations. And yeah, decent. The issues that we have is one, Roland is yeah, we're also leaving because, we're the other dudes that are not Shido. We're going to leave the Shido behind. We're going to go back and become primitives again. And yeah, you want to come with us, and you're still in white, so what happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas, so let's get it on, Fael. And she's trying to not do that, but maybe also there is some, emotions coming or whatever. We will see where that leads. My issue, however, is a Shido issue. And we need to talk about that one. Because here it is. And it's a general Aiel issue. We're talking white savior fuckery here. Look, it has been made clear that the Shido are getting more and more dissolute, behaving less and less, proper, drinking, losing more and more of their discipline and all of that, and becoming even worse than they were supposed to be from the beginning. Which is something that we should not forget, right? Even right at the beginning in Shadow Rising, when we talk about the Aiel, everyone is like, yeah, the Shidos, they suck. And then they continue to suck. And I'm like, maybe not the best, but let's look at the actual idea here. Once again, we spend a lot of time explaining how tastelessly Savannah is behaving, how she is, indulging in all kinds of decadent behavior, wearing way too much jewelry and whatnot. We've spoken about that before, and so forth. But, and this is, I think, where we need to go with this at the end. Look, the Aiel that followed Rand, a white savior boy from civilized lands, they have become disciplined. They are the good guys. They keep discipline. They follow Rand. They maybe slowly adapt to some Western ways. I'm using Western ways for a moment here, right? You know what I mean, right? White Andoran Protestant ways. They do all that, and they're the good guys. The Shido, who have declined leadership by a white officer, Rand, are falling into dissolution and decadence, and are terrible because of it. And the underlying idea behind that is that some people, the Aiel, some people can either be noble savages back in their own country, which is what Roland and his gang are planning to do, or become, join the community of nations if they are led by a colonial motherfucking leader, in this case Rand, who comes there, takes them into the West, and makes sure they stay on the straight and narrow, because on their own, those primitives are not able to, enjoy the luxuries of the civilized world. It will not work out. And I fucking hate that narrative. I absolutely fucking hate it, because yes, I'm interpreting here, but that's what you do when you read books. And for fuck's sake, this is 2000, late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, early 2000s. We should have come over that fucking stupid colonialist imperial fucking narrative. And it's no, just no. And we will see how this will all end, but I assume it will be exactly that, right? Everyone else goes back home, becomes primitive, and the ones that can't be primitive anymore will have to be, slaughtered or whatever. Or follow Rand and become, led by white officers. It just really, absolutely annoys me. Or, disgusts me. So yeah, that's what we get from the Fail part. Mostly. We'll see where it will lead in the future, but for now, that's where we are. So, let's look at the next bit. Perrin. Perrin runs to a town with his new Seanchan allies to get shit tons of forkroot tea. And then get assassinated. Well, he survives, but still he gets hit by an assassin, by a lone gunman. I mean, no, there's two of them. Anyway. And we don't know who did it. Probably a Forsaken, because we learned that the Forsaken are now out to hunt Matt and Perrin. Unlike Rand, who has to survive on his own, because we know we need all three of them to actually survive Armageddon, Tarmangaden, and so what we know the drill. So yeah, they're now back up out hunting Matt and Perrin. And I assume both the bow attack on Perrin in Seanchan territory there, and the knife attack on Rand in that last city before where the Matt storyline ends, is also that part of where we see the actions that the Evil League of Evil decided to actually start happening. I assume so. We'll find out, I guess. Anyway, what else happens? We get more of the way too complicated bureaucracy, arrogance, and whatnot, orientalism of the Seanchan. Plus, we get a guy turned into bugs. And yeah, that's pretty cool. I'll say it, a dude starting to vomit bugs until he's basically dead and deflated because his insides have been turned into bugs. When we're talking about horror and cosmic horror and that kind of stuff, and this is body horror, that's pretty fucking cruel. I mean, it's one of the strengths of Robert Jordan, I feel, at this point, is that he's actually good when he tries to do horror, and that came kind of out of nowhere and just happened. And on the one hand shows, yes, the Dark One is breaking free, reality is breaking down, this kind of stuff can happen now. And at the same time, it's unfortunately also another situation where they show the weird superstitions of the Seanchan. Not like our clear-minded, white Andoran Protestant Perrin. Oh well, it's what it is. I guess, at this point. Apart from that, well, it seems Perrin, through being Perrin and cool and whatnot, and possibly also ta'veren, having plot immunity is what it means, basically. He gets the forkroot stuff, so they'll get that forkroot tea, they'll just drag it there, they introduce it into the wise ones, like water, tea, booze, whatever, to make sure they can't channel. And then the Seanchan and Perrin will just like take the camp, take Fail and the other women, and of course our stalker Talon War will obviously get his woman. And that... don't get me started on that again. It's fucked up. All right. Now let's look at the last one. That is Elaine. Elaine is in what's the country place called? Caemlyn. Elaine is in Caemlyn and it's besieged by Aramilla. And we get a bit of a battle, and there's maybe magic afoot, because maybe that thunderstorm at the end is artificial. We don't know who actually did that, but there is magic afoot. There is the thing. Elaine is behaving irresponsibly, because of course she's pregnant, right? We remember. Yeah, she's pregnant, so she's behaving irrationally, and she can't channel at the moment, and we get a bit of all of that, then we get like happy, and not happy ending, but like good news, because someone brought 10,000 soldiers, which makes the siege less of a desperate kind of endeavor, so there might be a chance for Elaine to win this one. Maybe even without, Rand's help. We'll see. But there's still, that guy Mellar hanging around, so I assume there's still a chance for treachery and Elaine being in a situation where Rand has to actually save her. Only a matter of time, I guess. So yeah, we get all of that. I still wish there would be like some sort of explanation for the Perrin, Matt, and Rand always seeing like these like color bursting in their brain when they think of each of the other ones, and them becoming like more tightly knit as like that trio. But I feel at this point it is what Robert Jordan would call foreshadowing that we need all three at Tarmangaden. But then again, we already knew that bit a long time ago, because it was said so right from the start. So it feels a bit superfluous, but then again, this is Wheel of Time, and we'd rather focus on these superfluous kind of things instead of actually giving good reasons for stuff like, the Seanchan return and shit like that. Whatever. It is what it is right now. It is still not super annoying. I feel the Matt Tuan thing, maybe it's just, I don't know, not my kind of, way, not... It doesn't vibe with my views of relationships the way he describes that whole thing. It's a bit kinky, whatever. Not my kind of kink, I guess. Yeah, whatever. We'll see. But it seems action is about to happen, and I think action is always good with Robert Jordan, because then he can't, do stupid fuckery like all that orientalism and all that racism and whatnot. We will see how all of this will continue with the next couple of chapters tomorrow. So yeah, I hope you have a good time. Please think again about maybe liking, subscribing, sharing, those things. And if you want to join the Discord, or want me to start a Discord kind of thing, or don't want me to start a Discord, please go and do that community tab poll thing. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, have a great day. See you soon. Cheers.